it's really a cash churning business, and however long you can do this for, you should do it. But you need to think of long-term wealth, and real estate is my opportunity for long-term wealth.
Welcome to The Path to Wealth, the show about well-being, fulfillment, and financial freedom. And I'm your host, Hennche. Welcome back to The Path to Wealth. I'm your host, Hennche. Today we will explore Airbnb with our guest, Syed, an 8-figure Airbnb coach since 2017, managing nearly 300 units and 100 employees, half of them overseas. Syed earns over $30,000 daily, poised to surpass $10 million annually this year. His venture has already accumulated over $30 million in revenue since 2017. Beyond business, Syed aids communities in India and Pakistan, installing clean water wells with foundations like Thakat and Human Concern International. Thanks for being here today.
I'm excited to be here.
So let's start where the journey started for you. Why Airbnbs and how did you get into it?
Yeah, sure. So originally, my intention was not Airbnb. I kind of fell into it. So it was back in maybe 2016 is when I was working my 9-to-5 job in corporate finance. I was looking for financial freedom. I listened to the ebook for Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I got into a lot of bigger podcasts. And I ended up going on the forums and learning about, financial freedom and how to replace my 9-to-5 income. And I thought my best path is to do real estate. So I purchased my first multifamily property back in 2017. And it was a 4-unit plus basement. And I did low money down financing. It was kind of like the house hacking method. And I lived in one of my units. And after the year was up, I ended up moving out of that unit. But now it was furnished, so that's when Airbnb kind of fell in my lap. I was like, okay, potentially can I make more doing Airbnb than long-term tenants? So I put my listing on Airbnb. It was back in February of 2017. And the first month I put it on is I broke even on rent. It was February. It was slow season month. It was cold in my market in Chicago. And then I'm like, okay, wait, let's see what happens when it warms up a little bit. And then March came along and I ended up making double the rent. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head. And I'm like, whoa, this is pretty amazing to make double the rent. That's all the cash flow in my building that I was getting from all the long-term tenants from one unit. So I started waiting for a couple more months. Summer came along and I started making 3 times rent. And that's when I was like, okay, I need to make my other units in my building Airbnb and put them and see what happens. And every unit that I ended up putting on during that summer was making 3 times rent. And I was like, okay, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I went to my manager at work and I was like, listen, I'm going to give my month's notice and I want to start doing Airbnb full time. And this was maybe 3-4 months into doing Airbnb is when I gave my notice to my job that I want to do full time entrepreneurship. And they asked me can you stay on part time for the remainder of the year? And I said, yeah, sure. As long as I could keep my benefits. Fast forward, it was January 1st, 2018 is when my entrepreneurship full-time journey went along. And I created a management business during that time. I found out in my market during that time, there was not too many other management companies that are doing, Airbnb management for other owners. So I created my company, created my website, invested a little bit of money on SEO, and the leads started pouring in so fast. And I started getting leads and started closing on properties, and I was managing for them an 80-20 split where they collected 80% of the revenue and I collected 20%. And I thought I'm a genius. This is amazing. But I figured out that the management type model is not the model for me. I started getting a lot of criticism from my clients that I was onboarding. We weren't on the same page, and they were treating me like an assistant to them and micromanaging every type of task I did. And I quickly realized hey, there's good clients and bad clients, and this type of business is taking a toll on me. It ended up being where there's this one client that put the nail on the coffin where it took me 4 months to onboard her 20 units. And after 3 weeks of managing those 20 units, she's like, hey, this is not working out. I'm cutting off our agreement. And that took a toll on me because it was like, 4 months of my effort and work to not make a dollar, but spending a lot of time. So I ended up going back to the drawing board and I'm like, what do I do? Like, do I continue doing this or do I transition and do something else? But fortunately, I went to this one networking event, and in my little circle, in my group, there was an individual that was like, hey, we're looking for people to do Airbnb in our buildings. Though I work at a management company and we have about 1,000 units and we're trying to explore Airbnb. And I was like what? Like, I can't believe somebody would say something like that. I never heard of anybody like going up to other people like that and saying like, we're looking to do Airbnb in these like big buildings. So I'm like, yeah, I'd love to have your information. Can I reach out? She's like, well, like, here's a manager's contact. You could contact them. So I went and started contacting the manager. He, kind of pushed me off, like, call me back in 2 weeks, call me back in 1 week, call me back in 5 days. He just kept on doing that for like 3, 4, 5 months. And then finally, he's like, okay, just come into the office and propose to me what you're looking to do. And then I come into the office, I propose to him. He's like, okay, I'll get back to you in a week. Like, he just kept on pushing me off. Finally, I just started arriving to the office and I'm like, listen, are we going to do something or not? He kind of got fed up with me and he's like, all right, I'll put you in the office with the owner of the company and you guys can decide, you guys can figure it out if you're going to do it or not. So they put me in the office and this guy walks in, like super alpha male, super loud. So he just like tore me apart. He's like, listen, I'm not looking to get in the Airbnb business. I'm not looking to buy furniture. I know how to do one thing and that's all I'm going to do. So I'm sorry, we're not going to be doing business together. And then I like heard him out and I'm like, listen, I see you have like 100 units vacant. Allow me to rent 2 of those units and I'll furnish it and then I'll put it on Airbnb and I'll take on the risk. All I have to do is pay you the rent. And this is before like the rental arbitrage like model that you hear all over social media was like even existed, And he was like, listen, if you don't cause me any problems and you pay rent on time, you could have these 2 units. So I onboarded those 2 units. I asked for 2 months free up front. And within those 2 months, I was able to recoup my CapEx cost of my furniture. And, 2 months, 3 months go along. And I'm like, hey, like, I'm doing good right now. I paid you your rent. Can I get 2 more units? And he's like, you're doing good for me. You're not causing any issues. Take these 2 units. And then I onboarded those 2 units. And then a couple months later, I'm like, can I have these 3 units? And then he gave those 3 units. And then a couple months later, could I have these 5 units? And then I just kept on adding with him. And then fast forward, I ended up getting 35 units with that one landlord.
Oh,
yeah.
How much was the CapEx per unit?
So during that time, it was around $9,000 per 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit. And it would be like, 2 months of free rent maybe recoups 80% of the cost. And then like it would come in the next couple months, depending on the time of the year, because in my business, there's a lot of seasonality.
So where do you have the focus of your business right now? Is it all in Chicago or you're in different places?
So a majority of my business is located in Chicago. I am in other markets, but my main business is based out of Chicago.
And how did you pick those markets so outside of Chicago? So Chicago is because that's where you're kind of the native.
Yeah.
It's where you have the natural understanding of the landscape.
Yeah.
How did you pick those other markets and which markets are you in?
Yeah, so the other markets, like I have some partnership in Arizona with a partner, very minimal amount of units. I had some units in Milwaukee, which was like, nearby. It was between a relationship with the landlord. It's really where my relationships were and where they were looking to invest. And there's other suburbs that I am in Illinois that's farther away. But again, like maybe like majority of my business is based out of Chicago.
So, I mean, you kind of already mentioned it. You're going mainly by existing relationships, but let's say you don't have existing relationships and you want to identify a new market.
Yeah.
How would you go about that?
So the first thing is I like going to regulated markets where there's a supply constraint, where it's not so easy for every single person to, join in the business. So when I said Arizona, Arizona is not too much of a regulated market. So they had a huge supply increase that came from like COVID. There's non-regulated markets in like, the southern states, like, Texas, where it's very easy to do short-term rentals. I would really want to go into a regulated market where it's super difficult to get licensing, super difficult to convince landlords, where it's not easy for another person to come in and, lower your demand for your units. So that's where I would main focus on. For me, I'm in the urban type business. I would focus on urban type markets, big cities where there's like a lot of attractions, a lot of business and leisure travel. And that's kind of my bread and butter. But for a recommendation to anybody else is like, start off in your backyard. You know your neighborhood best. You know where you can make money. You know where it's reasonable to purchase something or rent something at a certain price to be able to get that premium on short-term rental website. So I would start off in your own backyard. And as you scale up, you could start looking at different markets, and you could choose a strategy you want. You could go to urban, you could go rural, you could go to vacation rental, you go to coastal areas. Like there's so many niches in our business that you could pick which one works best for you.
But you don't want to get as regulated as New York City, right?
That's the one place that you don't want to go into and you can't go into. So, they had a reduction of short-term rentals by like 80% overnight. So like the one thing is an operator like me or somebody like a big operator, like that kind of opened my eyes and said like, hey, okay, how do I get a hotel license in New York? Is there an opportunity for a hotel license? I would love to get a hotel license in New York in a building and be able to, have Airbnbs in there. It's a little too high level for most of the people out there, but yeah, that's kind of what people in my type level look into opportunities like that.
That sounds interesting. I've never considered that.
Yeah.
But I guess hotels anyway already leveraged Airbnb to some degree to fill their rooms, so it might as well sense to leverage a license to get the legal.
So yes and no. I haven't seen a lot of like the branded hotels that are in New York to be on Airbnb. There might be boutique type hotels, but the supply of short-term rentals in New York decreased by 75-80%. So no matter what you say, hotels are already doing it. I mean, that supply went down, right? So there is an opportunity for somebody to be able to do something like that if you could figure it out, if you could convince an owner to get a license and sublease it or manage it for that. But that is a challenging project.
Yeah. So how much of your portfolio do you rent, and how much did you, like your earlier Airbnbs, did you actually purchase?
Yeah, so maybe like 99% of my portfolios I rent. So I have 300 units at the moment, and there's maybe 13 of them that I own. And those 13 of them that I own are based out of like 3 buildings that I purchased earlier in my business when I first started. I wish I purchased a lot more, but certain circumstances made me not. One, it was like increasing interest rates that kind of messed me up. Increase of pricing that like messed me up on and then I told myself I was going to get like a real estate license, and that delayed things, and that's when the interest rates and prices of real estate started going up. So I wish I did not end up. I just bought when I had an opportunity to. But at the same time in my business, there's been a lot of ups and downs from a cash flow perspective. I had higher than expected demand in summer, but then my winter was way lower than expected, and that ended up giving me some cash flow problems. So even if I did buy some real estate, I would have had to liquidate to be able to cover some things that were going on in my business this last year. So for whatever it is, I look to purchase more as time goes on, because my business, it's a asset light or equity light business. It's really not a sellable business. Businesses like mine are not getting traded. There's very few opportunities that a business like mine did get traded, and who knows the details behind that acquisition. It could have been like a $0 acquisition,
like a multiple of one.
Yeah,
like
or not even that. Maybe it was they were a failing business and they just took over their inventory, and all of a sudden they get maybe like 5% of equity in their company. Like you never know like what was going on in the background. There was a company called Front Desk that acquired a company, and then I just heard recently another company got acquired. But so in my business, it's really a cash churning business, and however long you can do this for, you should do it. But you need to think of long-term wealth, and real estate is my opportunity for long-term wealth. I wish I was doing more of it. I get distracted sometimes. I end up getting like the nice car or the nice cars, multiple ones, and puts me back a little bit. But like, yeah, my long-term strategy is to buy more real estate to give me that long-term wealth.
Yeah. How do you manage to sleep well? You did mention that you're having occasionally seasonal cash flow issues.
Yeah.
What's your forward plan? Are you trying to have like 6 months of rent in the bank, or how do you mitigate that forward moving?
So every year has been so different. I'll take you back like 2 years ago, where I was having that pent up demand record summer from COVID, because the mask mandates went away, and I was making, $1.5 million of revenue a month in the summer, and like maybe like $500,000 of $600,000 profit. And all of a sudden I had these like visions of like, wow, this is like once in a lifetime stuff. This pent up demand is going to be here for some time. Let me grow my business. Let me grow my employees, and let me grow my units. I believe I'm going to get to 400 or 500 units. I believe I'm going to get to $20 million of revenue. Let me make my dream team organization now, and let's get there, right? And I ended up hiring a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of virtual assistants out of the Philippines. And now I have this 100-employee company, and I had a record summer, but then I had the worst winter than I ever expected. Usually in November and December, I have minimal losses, like, $50,000 loss max, right? And all of a sudden I had a $350,000 loss in November, a $350,000 loss in December, $400,000 loss in January, $350,000 loss in February. All of a sudden, like, I had $1.5 million worth of losses in like 5 months of the winter. And I had $1.3 million of cash in my bank account. So all of a sudden I'm like negative 200,000. I'm putting money back. I'm putting expenses back on my credit cards. I'm racking up $200,000 worth of debt. I'm paying rent 5 days late. I turned off my auto payment for my utilities. Like, that $1.3 million of cash that I had, I was thinking of buying 3-4 buildings with that 1.3 cash, and I was looking to buy a couple buildings, but like, thank God I didn't, right? Because then I would have to had liquidated all those buildings and to cover my losses in the winter. So, it took a toll on me significantly, and it stopped me from growing. I was at 300 units, and I said I was going to get to 400, in 2023. But like, I was at a standstill. I was like, how can I grow if I'm like, I have no money to grow, So I didn't end up growing. And now all of a sudden in 2023, the demand is less in 2023 than it was in 2022. My summer, the pent up demand that I thought was going to continue didn't end up continuing. So it was like a combination of lower than expected demand, combination of my winter losses, combination of my growth projections of how many units I was going to have didn't happen. And then now I'm running an expense of 100 people where I don't need these 100 people. So like in the last 2 months, I started cutting, and that 100 people is not 100 anymore. It's 75 now. So I let go of maybe like 16 people in the Philippines, and then I let go maybe like 6-7 people in the US, and because that was, again, I scaled my total amount of people to 100 thinking I was going to get to 20 million of revenue, and I wasn't. I did $10.7 million worth of revenue in 2022. 2023, I'm at $11 million as of like today, and I'm going to end the year like 11.5, so I didn't get to my like 17 to $20 million growth projections, so I had to make a cut, but fortunately I did make the cut, and fortunately, like, it was business as usual after I made the cut. Like, I haven't heard like things have gotten too tough for people, or where they're overworked, or we're having problems, So that goes to show you there was a lot of wastage, that I did mistakenly in my business. So for your question of like, how do you manage your cash flows? So like, then this year, I'm going through the same thing, right? The summertime, it was not as good as last summer, but it was still good. But then now I'm worried about, is my winter this year going to be as bad as last winter, right? So I kept my, reserves. I didn't spend any money on any investments, no real estate, nothing, right? And all of a sudden I had, again, probably a $1.3 million of reserves. And then now I'm forecasting $1.5 million of losses in the next, 5 months. But November came, and now we have realized numbers in November. And my November this year was significantly better than the November last year. So now it goes to show you that, and December is trending way better than what it was last year. So it goes to show you that last year there was pent up demand in the summer, but then there was like over fatigue in the winter. And then now this summer was less than last summer, but it's more stabilized demand going into the winter. So now it's like almost like same results as last year, but like more spread apart and more better. So now I'm continuously changing my forecast. Now I have a positive $100,000 in my bank account after this winter, what I'm forecasting right now, and it could go up to positive $200,000. So before I was negative 200-300, now I'm going to be positive 200,000. So it puts me in a very confident position now. Now I'm even thinking about now going back to like that 400 unit mark, because now I'm understanding like this is like the cash flow monthly money that's coming in and monthly money is coming out, that maybe I could get to this 400 unit mark this year versus last year because there was so much instability. So it's a lot of like cash flow forecasting, keeping reserves in the bank account and seeing how things come in, and then making your decisions after you see those things come in, you know? So that's kind of how I've been managing. A lot of people say like, oh, you should invest more in other offsetting markets, you know, to stabilize your cash flow. Like, yeah, I could do that. Or I could just manage my cash flow over here better on a spreadsheet, you know? There's a lot of people that, you know, went to the southern markets during COVID, and now there's an oversupply and the demand is back into all the other cities, right? And all of a sudden they say like Airbnb bust, and they say that, you know, Airbnb is not a good business. And I'm happy I didn't like grow in Arizona and Texas and Florida and stuff. I'm really happy I didn't end up doing that because, yeah, even though my cash flow would be a little smoother, but like my net income for the whole entire year will be way less. So what's the point of that, you know? As long as I can manage my cash flow properly, then it's all good. If I can manage it on a spreadsheet and, you know, do proper forecasting, proper revenue forecasting, proper expense forecasting, it's a math problem now, you know?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, expenses are fairly predictable for you.
Yep.
It's really on the demand side.
Oh, yeah.
So then the variable is how much traffic can you drive towards your units.
I know. That's exactly what it is. And the problem with that is my booking lead time is so short. It happens within like 7 to 10 days, like is where majority of my bookings come in. So it's hard to like just even know what's going to happen next month. You know, a lot of my bookings are like last minute, and that's just like customer behavior now. It kind of switched over from pre-pandemic times where people are having options. They have so many options, Airbnb, hotels, whatever the case is, and their just behavior is last minute, and they just book last minute. So it's hard to
explore proactively advertising individual units, like maybe trying to do it with your own SEO approach or something, or are you basically only going through Airbnb?
So 85% of my business is on Airbnb. So Airbnb is my life. I have maybe 5% on VRBO, maybe like 3-5% on Booking.com, and like whatever, like small percentage direct, very small percentage. Yes, the goal is to get direct bookings. The goal is to not be reliant on other people's platforms, to invest in SEO, invest in Facebook marketing, investing in a brand. And that was initially my intention. And I didn't get crazy good results from that. But I ended up changing the direction of my strategy in my business, where I ended up debranding my business. I ended up taking away my direct booking website. Because I was growing so much in small markets, I didn't want eyes on me and people knowing where my units are, what business, what he's doing, how many units he has, what's going on in his business. You could easily figure that out once you get a direct booking website, and all of a sudden you have a website and social media. People, all eyes will start coming on you, and I didn't want that. So I ended up getting multiple Airbnb accounts, because Airbnb could shut me down on one account. My business is done. Take me off the platform for a week and I'm done. Yeah, it's nothing I could do, right?
Yeah.
And there's stories of a lot of people having like that, and they go out of business because of that, you know? So my strategy completely changed, and I was like, okay, now I want to be discreet. I don't want people knowing what I have. I want to be on multiple accounts. If one goes down, I have, 10 other, 15 other, and I still could be in business. So that's my strategy going forward. And I don't have plans to change it at the moment.
So what are some of the reasons why Airbnb chooses to shut down accounts?
Yeah, there could be various reasons. Like your review score for one of your units start trending down. They end up suspending the whole account. A guest can complain about a situation. Oh, somebody walked in my unit. Somebody like, oh, there's bed bugs. There's somebody. Oh, there's a camera. Like a guest could say anything, and imagine the volume of guests I have. I have like 5,000 guests a month, 10,000 guests a month. They say the craziest stuff all the time, right? And it's as simple as one person. Like Airbnb's whole business is based out of Philippines. Also, is somebody making $4 an hour making a decision on suspending an account for a week, with 20 listings on it, and all of a sudden you have nowhere to get through, like nobody to respond to what's going on, and no one is going to come back on. There's a lot of trust and safety issues. Like if something bad happens to somebody, like they take it off. There's so many different reasons why Airbnb can take off your listing. There a situation with a company. There was a big VC-backed company called Domio. That there was some press release that they were lying about their addresses for the registration or saying primary residence when they were not. And then Airbnb took away 1,000 units off their platform, like overnight. And then the two co-founders had to leave the company, and then Airbnb reinstated their Airbnb account. And then 1 month later, they went bankrupt. So there's like so many different stories on what could happen to somebody. And that's why, Airbnb is my livelihood, but they could take it away in seconds, right? So I have to try to make sure that I cover myself for situations like that.
Yeah, which is I'm not sure how you sleep well.
Oh, I know. I mean,
you have this big cash flow thing going throughout the year, and then on top you have like a single linchpin that can kill your entire business.
So imagine what happened when COVID happened, right? So there's too many situations that I've had in my business, like change of regulation in my market, COVID happening, cash flow problems, Airbnb suspending an account that had 30 listings on it, and I had to figure out how to get those listings back on. I had lawsuit issues. I had landlords kicking me out of volume of, like, there's so many different things that takes the breath out of me every time it happens. And it's almost like it's never ending. It's always like the next one that comes up every month, that's like, okay, is this the end? Is that the end? I don't know when the end is, So that's why I try to make as much money as possible to take it and to be able to cover my family for a decent amount of time,
Yeah. I mean, that's really the game plan here. It's almost like you have to take it while it lasts.
Yes.
And make sure that you somewhat distribute it into other assets that can support your family forward moving.
So exactly that. So when I first started, I was like, oh, just give me like, 1-2 years of this. And then after I got those 1-2 years, I'm like, maybe give me 1 or 2 more. And then that'll cover my family and then I got those 1-2 more. Right. And then now it's like, all right, it's just like my outlook on my personal life and personal, like a lifestyle can change so simply after I get each year on this platform, each year in this business. I started having visions of like a home here, a home in Miami. And you start thinking of like potential opportunities, but then something comes and hits you and it's like, okay, fine. I just want to stay in my little suburb and don't bother me. I just want to be my home. I'm just going to pay it off and put in my wife's name. So if something happens to me, we're all good, So it just, I go through these like cycles and different like feelings depending how the business is going, It's like, now it's like, I got my initial goal of the business already accumulated in my wealth, my net worth that will cover my family with a nice basic lifestyle for the next 15 years or 20 years, whatever it is. Yep. And that's enough. But now you start getting used to some luxuries and stuff and like some things that you like. You like your cars, you like your watches, you like some of your stuff. So then it's like, okay, I need like 2 more years to like then cover that for like 20 years. Like I have like these like if give me 3, 4, 5 years, I have a lifelong worth of money for me and my family, So I'm trying to get every year out of it.
I'll tell you something I learned being around rich people. There's always another upgrade. And it's like really unless you conquer it internally, from an outside perspective, there's always the next level.
For me, I have a problem. Like I'm never satisfied, So I deal with that upgrade thing. I'm always looking at the shiny object that's in front of me, and you start comparing yourself to the next level up, and I want to get that. And it's almost like I need to figure out how to be happy within myself and be happy where I got myself as of right now. But it's just that drive in me. You call it good, call it bad, but I just want more all the time. And it's I got to figure that out within myself.
I think this is really the game of life. So we chase something that we think we want, then when we get it, it's sparkly for some time, but it loses its shine, and there's like the next shiny object.
Right.
And I think we have to go through that cycle a couple of times over and over again until we realize we're running in circles. It might be a big circle, but we're running in circles. And then we're kind of like looking at it and like, okay, why we're doing this?
Right. And then for me, I have to know that if things go away, will I be able to take a step back, or how will that affect me? Because I have only been going forward lately. You know, I haven't taken a step back. So I don't know like my mindset, how things are going to be when things happen too. So I never know how it's going to be.
How did you feel when you had those major losses? Like, at least from my life experience, most of my personal growth and reflection happens in the most painful intersections.
So initially, when I would get those losses, like I would like fight through them like it was nothing. Like I was like, when COVID happened, I was so new in my business where I didn't upgrade my life like how it is now. And when COVID hit me like a brick wall, where they, flights stopped, Airbnb refunded everybody's reservations. I had $5,000 to my name and like, a $500,000 rent payment coming up in 3 weeks. People were saying like, how are you even handling that? And for me, it was like, again, it was like a problem solving opportunity. And I wasn't that stressed. In my mind, like the Band-Aid got ripped off, and I was like, okay, I need these like 12 things to happen to survive in this business. I put out a plan. And all of a sudden I started hitting those things on my list. And that's what kept me in business. And people would like, I don't even know how you slept at night. And, to be honest, I slept fine during that time. But now fast forward, there are things that are happening like in the last 6 months where now I'm starting to get like body pains from like some like news that gets dropped on me, where I get like stomach anxiety and like I have to lie down in bed. I can't like go out. Like it's just a weird feeling I get now. Like before I had nothing to lose, and that's why I didn't care. But now I have like everything to lose, and now it takes a toll on me. So my stress levels or how I handle things have changed over the years. And this is like, I'm talking about 5 years. Like, so it's not like a 10, 15-year thing. So initially when I was doing this, I was like, all right, I win, I lose, I don't care. But now I don't want to lose anymore, I don't want to. I want what I have right now, and just leave me alone a little bit. Stop with the lawsuits. Stop with the landlords kicking me out of 40 units, or a landlord threatening to sue, or a guest threatening to sue for a situation, and my mover ended up getting in a car accident, and that guy wants to sue for $1 million. Like there's like all these things that are happening to me. A new regulation change happens, and you have potential risk of these 50 units like coming off the platform. Like these things are like the stuff that like give me like body pains now, And before I was good at handling those, now I'm having a little bit of trouble like handling those situations. That's why it's like, okay, do I stay at this 300 unit mark or shoot for the sky and go for 400 or 500 units? Like now, just kind of leave me alone. I'll just take my money, what I get now, and just like don't bother me anymore. And that's kind of where like my mind is now.
So where do you think 400, 500 take you in terms of, the stress level will multiply, or you think you're getting to a point where maybe you can mitigate risk differently again, and it's different?
Yeah.
Like, for example, legal matters. If you start having a more committed legal team in-house, maybe at 500 units, that's a possibility where you don't have to take the stress, but you have somebody fully committed to legal compliance and lawsuits.
Yeah. So I can't even imagine having a legal team within my business. That expense is just like mind-boggling probably to how my business is. But like I don't know what I don't know. At 400 units, like what if that relationship that I have 10 landlords right now, what if the 11th landlord is a landlord that puts me under? And then why not keep these 10 landlords that I have decent relationships with? If things go bad, I'll still be okay with them. They're not going to go after me in court. We'll resolve matters and we'll part ways, whatever the case is, So it's like, will my ambition kill me is my concern and question. And there are things that have continuously happened that did not foresee happening at all. And I always try to think about the next thing that's going to take me under. I think of cash flow issues. I think of all this stuff, like what could happen, but why every single time something happens, I didn't expect it, So that's why it's like, do I just stay at this number or go to 400? And it really depends on my mood during that week, month, or whatever opportunity that happens. If I get in my competitive zone, because I get competitive and one of my colleagues ends up getting this big deal and it's like, oh, I could do the same thing. Why am I sitting on the sidelines, Or it's like, okay, then the next letter from a lawyer comes in and I'm like, oh man, I can't take this anymore. Like, leave me alone. Like I'll settle with you and I don't want any more. Like, I don't know, I don't think that I mentally want to do something at 400 units that'll cover those 400 units. Like, maybe I just stay as is. And that's another reason why I started doing this like personal branding business that I just started. That's why I'm even on a podcast with you at the moment. Is in the 5 years of my business, you didn't know who I was. Nobody in the business knew who I was. I had no brand, I had no podcast, I had nothing, right? And now I'm thinking, all right, if something like this does fail, I need an outlet, and by creating a personal brand, like, where can I take this personal brand? Can I take this into education? Can I take this into coaching? Can I take this into fundraising for a potential hotel or a property or whatever the case is? But now I'm trying to keep my business as is and like start a new business versus scaling my business to something significant, where you could argue I currently have scaled it to something significant already. But do I want more? So that's kind of where my mind is. And that's why I'm even on this podcast, to build my personal brand.
Yeah. I think it makes sense to, at the stage where you're at, especially given the high risk with individual decisions from Airbnb or your landlords, to significantly reduce your business. I think it makes perfect sense to trying to find different ways to make yourself known and have different streams of revenue through that. So in terms of coaching, what do you envision? Is it about teaching people how to be successful with Airbnb? Where do you envision your skills there, and where do you think you can help people?
Yeah, initially, yes. That's where my intention was when I started this personal brand business. So I had a colleague who is also in the same space as me, who has scaled to a number that was below me, but recently he now has a lot more than me now. And at the same time of him scaling his business, he started his personal brand business and he went viral a whole bunch of times. And with that viralness, he created a course. And in that course, he teaches people how to run a successful short-term rental business. And that education business was making more money than his actual real business. So it
has higher profit margins.
Yeah, it's like 80% margins versus our 10, 15, 20% margins, right? You're selling a digital product and it's you marketing it. You have to spend a lot of time, because I'm starting to get used to scheduling podcasts and being prepared for the podcast and like setting up your whole studio and everything. It takes time to do that, so it's a lot of your time to do something like that versus my business. It's like, it's ran by everybody else, I work, 1.5 hours on my business on a weekly basis. I use a method called EOS with the book called Traction. And basically my work on that business is like my L10 meeting every week with the leadership. And, that's good and bad. Where good in the sense that you got your goal in your business, where you automated your business to you not working in it. But at the same time, you're not as productive on your daily basis. You don't have anything to do, and you could get into the wrong path and the wrong mindset. So this personal branding business has kept me busy now. It makes me go to the gym. I want to look better on camera. I want to go to nice places to shoot content. I want to get ready to go on a podcast, and I have to be on a schedule again. Like, it's good in the sense that it's keeping me busy, So, yeah. So far it's been a good thing for me. Yeah, it gave me a structure where I lost by scaling up my business.
So, what would you say makes a life well lived?
Yeah. So, for financial freedom is very important, right? If you are making a good amount of money, where you get your time freedom, which is hand in hand with one another. The more money you make, in theory, should give you more time to do the things that you want to do. On a daily basis is like, I control my schedule. I see my kids off to school. I pick them up from school. I take them to their activity. I bring them home. We have dinner together. I see them to bed at night. Like it's almost like I'm a stay-at-home dad. If you choose to be like that, but I do choose to be like that. I enjoy that for the most part. It's stressful, yes, throughout the day, but I want to be that. Like, because I didn't get that when I was a child. From my parents. They were on their entrepreneurship or doctor journey, and they weren't around, right? So I want to do opposite with my kids now. It's coaching their soccer league and coaching their basketball team, where I haven't even played soccer in my life. I don't even know how to kick a ball, but I'm a coach for, second grade girls, so these are the things that I wanted to do, with my time. I like playing pickleball. I like going to the gym. I like, getting a massage, going to the sauna, going to the jacuzzi. I like doing those things. I like going to nice dinners. I like getting nice cars and driving to like the valeting and my car in front at those nice dinners on Saturday night. Like, those are the things that I strive to do. And like, I want to invite my friends out, pay for their dinner. This is the lifestyle that I always wanted. And I have that lifestyle, which is good. But don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stress behind that as well. From the sense of like, can go away fast, right? Just the way how fast it came, it could go away fast. There's problems where now I'm like a bank to other people, where family and friends, whenever they come to a problem, they come straight to me and say, hey, can you help me solve the problem with money? And it's almost like all my conversations, it's about how I can help somebody from what they have going on in their life, and that takes a toll on you too. Like the relationship with your parents change, and the parents' situation with your brothers and sisters can change, with your friends change. Like it's good and bad, and sometimes you feel lonely is because it's like, oh hey, it's all you care about now is like how I could help you with this situation now. It's like it takes a toll on you too. So there's good and bad that comes from this financial freedom and time freedom and everything. And it's not all like, sunshine and rainbows. There's a lot of ups and downs for like this lifestyle, but I would rather choose this than anything else.
Yeah. I think there's once people perceive you as having more money than themselves, some of them get comfortable asking you for really odd things. Like, I remember the first time a friend of mine asked me to help him buy a house. and I knew that he was very bad with his finances, that he already borrowed money to do something different that he haven't repaid. And I just told him, I cannot borrow you money for something that has no productivity, on top of knowing already that you don't pay back the money you previously loaned,
Right.
As much as I could give you the money, I'm not comfortable supporting that mindset,
Right. And then I'm curious to know, how did the relationship with you and that friend go on after you said something like that?
Well, initially he was a bit bummed, but then it was fine.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
But I think it's tricky, it's tricky on both sides. You don't want to be the guy saying no. At the same time, no sometimes is the healthier move to do, to protect the relationship. Like saying yes might equally hurt the relationship.
True.
Well, so where can people get in touch with you if they want to learn from you about Airbnb?
So I started posting on social media. I'm on Instagram, and you can follow me on Instagram at Syed BNB. I have it at the bottom of the screen. If you could see my name right there, it's SYED BNB. And over there, you can see a lot of my content, some of the problems I deal with on a daily basis, my lifestyle. And yeah, you could DM me and reach me out via Instagram.
Awesome. And you'll see a lot of nice cars when you go there too.
Yeah, there you go. That's what attracts people on social media. That's what brings in the followers. So you got to use what you have.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you so much for making the time. And we'll also make sure to add your Instagram handle and everything to the show notes. And thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us at The Path to Wealth. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Check out our upcoming guests and be sure to share it with all your friends and family that want to take their life to the next level of wealth.